Hello, HYROX Heroes crew. How are you? Whether you're watching this in our school community or whether you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for jumping on this video. And today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my best. I'm going to deliver you guys some great value by going over the things that I believe every HYROX athlete should be working on when training for HYROX. Okay. Now, how is this going to help you and why is this topic and why have I chosen to talk about it today? It's because a lot of people watching my content and this video are quite new to HYROX. If we're not new, we're someone who wants to either improve our time and we probably need to understand what we're doing a bit more. So if you're new or if you're someone who's wanting to progress your journey, this information is going to be really, really helpful. Now, it could confirm some things or it could shine a light on some areas that maybe you haven't been putting too much attention to. Okay. So here at HYROX Heroes, what do? We help people cross the HYROX finish line. We are known for getting people great results, shaving minutes off their time, getting them not only prepared for it, but we're giving them the strategies, the insights, the confidence to tackle HYROX, right? This is what I love about HYROX. It's not a complicated system, but it's about understanding principles. It's about understanding what you need to do, doing them very well. And then that allows us to go and execute on the day and have an amazing time, get fantastic results, get in great shape doing it, having a ton of fun while doing it, right? This is what we're doing, okay? Now it starts with these pillars. I'm going to talk about 4 pillars, right? This is what our programs are based on, our coaching is based on, even all the content that I deliver. It's all about helping people understand and apply these pillars into their training. And sometimes you see people with one of these pillars, right? And that's enough to get over the line. Sometimes people have a really strong in 2 of these pillars. Sometimes people are focusing on all 4, but they're just, not very high quality in all 4. Maybe their understanding is not quite there yet, a bit basic, or maybe they just need to learn more, right? This is what we're doing here today. Okay, so let's go over it. So first area, right? Well, there's 2 areas that I would place sort of equal importance to when starting, right? So this is like pillar 1 and 2, but I'll break them down each. Is really strength and endurance. Okay, strength and endurance. All right. So let's talk about strength first. All right. So if you want to do HYROX, right? If you want to do what's HYROX, if you want to do endurance, right? An endurance-based event where you're moving heavy load at high intensity, you have to have strength, right? Now, even if you're like an elite runner, super lightweight, but have no strength in the sport of HYROX, it's not going to help you because yes, you have endurance and you have speed, but you don't have power. You don't have the ability to maintain technique, position, efficiency while moving heavy loads. It will slow you down. Strength not only will help you with the movements, but strength is also a pillar, right, of endurance, right? To be able to be running and have efficiency in your running technique and sustain that for 60 plus minutes, your body needs to be strong. It needs to be able to hold you upright. It needs to be able to continue to produce power. Now, when we say strength, we're not talking about bodybuilders. You just need strength, and strength training is so, so important, right? So this is a bit of information now to say, hey, if you're kind of like going, oh, I don't need to do much strength work, I just need to focus on running, or if you've noticed in your last HYROX that maybe your strength stations, there was a huge discrepancy there and you were maybe going too slow, or maybe if you looked and compared times, you're in the back of the field, right? We've got to go back to basics. You got to do some strength training. And strength training does not necessarily mean, yeah, but I do F45, I do body fit, I'm strength training. Well, like if you're doing it in a circuit or when your heart rate is super elevated, you're not properly strength training or at the foundational point, right? You literally got to do like, let's call it like bodybuilding style. You got to like, that's the pillar. Like, it's like before you can sprint, you got to be able to walk, right? So before you can do high intensity strength, you got to do low intensity strength, right? You got to understand that. So if you're not going to the gym and just doing controlled, concentrated strength movements, right, anywhere in your program, that could be a massive hole in your bucket that is, again, restricting you from, again, being able now to display, higher intensities of strength, or especially in HYROX training. So you got to do that, all right? So strength training is super important. Second pillar, which I think is equally important when starting, is you got to have endurance, right? You got to be able to go the distance. You got to be able to, get oxygen into the lungs, right? That can then go into the muscles again to produce power, speed, and efficiency over the workout. So just like that, that runner who's, let's say not strong enough, right? You got endurance, you got this speed. But if we flip that, let's talk about a strong athlete. You're really, really strong. You can move the sleds, you can push the sled, you can do wall balls, 100 unbroken. But if you just don't have the aerobic capacity, right? If you don't have the lungs, if you don't have the engine, the tank, whatever you want to call it, right? If you don't have endurance, if you can't keep moving for 60 minutes, right, at a certain intensity, you're going to have a very, very hard HYROX. Okay, so zone two, aerobic. Where do we start? Zone two is a great spot. Again, that walk before jog, jog before run, right? You got to be able to just do if you can't walk for 60 minutes nonstop, right? You got to start there, right? You wouldn't try jog for 60 minutes. You got to just walk 60 minutes. And it's actually an interesting point because there's probably a lot of people that I know are trying to jog 2 to 3 kilometers nonstop, but struggle to walk for 60 minutes. Now, what we have to factor in is the time frame. The time domain of HYROX is set, right? There's the stations, the workload. You're going to be out there from 60 minutes to 2 hours, right? Depending where you sit. So if you can't walk that distance, right? If you can't go for let's just say your estimated time is 1 hour 30. If you can't walk for 1 hour 30, you got to start there. You know what I mean? That's got to get pretty easy before you can do the other things. So typical thing that we could see is we can see people that potentially might struggle to walk, even let's say at a fast pace, right? But these people sometimes are doing strength training. They're sometimes at the F45s or the BFT or group training doing high intensity group functional training. But those sessions are 20 minutes long. Now, the thing is, just because you can do a 20-minute high intensity workout does not automatically mean you can walk at a quite a brisk pace for 90 minutes easy, right? That could also be hard, right? So again, it's not to say stop doing this, but you gotta start to look at the holes, right? We've got to look at the holes. So if you go for that walk, now ideally walking isn't a prescription that we would put in our program, but what would we do for 60 to 90 minutes is a jog, right? We've got to be able to get to running that long, that distance, right? So if you cannot run, right, for let's call it 60 minutes nonstop at a really low intensity, right? We have to just start adding in more walks, some slower jogs, but we have to build up to that pace. Endurance, right? This is endurance. It's simple. It's as simple as that. You don't need any complicated program design to understand. I just got to build up this volume. All right. Now, it's even a great approach because it's if you're trying to run fast and then run 3K, 4K, 5K, it's well, you got to go back to basics. And you will find that why you get injured or why you find it hard to make that progress is because you haven't filled up the hole first of just by going, hey, I'm going to do that 90-minute long walk. I did that for 4 to 6 weeks. Now that first walk killed me. I was so tired. I was wrecked. Now it's easy. Exactly. You've started to gain and progress fitness, right? So hopefully that makes a lot of sense, right? It makes a lot of sense to me explaining it here. So again, easy stuff, right? Easy stuff to start, right? So these are 2 pillars. The third pillar that we got to look at, again, if you want to be a HYROX finisher, if you want to be a HYROX athlete, if you want to get to that finish line, if you want to improve your results, what's the third pillar? The third thing that we factor into all of our program design, into our coaching, into our content, what are we trying to help you get better at, right? This one here is functional movement patterns. Okay, now what is functional? Okay, functional is typically a movement pattern that is full body, right, using multiple muscles, and it will typically, replicate a functional movement like grabbing something off the shelf or squatting down to pick something up. But the way that we really look at it, it's a full body movement pattern, versus like a single arm bicep curl, right? We probably do lots of that all day, right? In various things, eating food, drinking, all that kind of stuff. but it's an isolated movement. So something more functional is like a lunge, picking something up from the ground, various things, right? So our HYROX stations are typically all functional movement patterns. They require full body, right? And they use multiple muscles, all right? So that's the criteria. I wouldn't necessarily say from the point of view that like the ski erg or the row is like a functional pattern from like it replicates a everyday movement. But if we look at the criteria of what really is a functional movement, again, full body, multiple muscles being used, right, to produce power and force, right? So this is typically going to be a functional movement pattern. So if you don't have much experience in functional movements, or if you're not doing a lot of functional movements, right, you have to start incorporating these movements. And all functional movement patterns or all different types of movement planes are really important for the body to develop overall athleticism and ability, right? So one thing we don't want to do is just segregate the movements to just being HYROX specific, like only doing the 8 stations, right? You know, broadening your capabilities in all various patterns will have a transfer effect and create different adaptations to the body, right? So different effects, different ways for the body to adapt and get stronger and fitter that will come in handy for HYROX, right? Now, when we look at functional movement patterns, where are these places that they are most common? And if you're like, yeah, I do tons of that, right? Okay, where is it mostly done? CrossFit gyms. Again, group training classes like your BFTs, your F45s, Fit Stops, Orange Theory, all these sort of places. Now, the one thing with these patterns, right, and this is like, again, the walk before you can jog, jog before you can run. If you can't do a lunge, like 3 sets, 10 reps on each side, slow and controlled, then you're not necessarily, the best way to progress then is not to then be doing, 20 walking lunges in a 20-minute Metcon or a 20-minute, as many rounds as you can workout. That is not the best way to improve your lunge. If that is your only exposure to like the lunging pattern is in those environments, there's a good chance you're in too much fatigue, the quality is not high, and you're not loading appropriately. You're probably not putting enough load onto the muscle then to get the right adaptation because you're in the intensity of the workout. So again, functional movement patterns, right, done in a controlled environment first. Then you can do it into like supersetting or circuit. Then it can be performed into high intensity under a lot of load and fatigue, e.g. HYROX. All right. Hopefully this makes sense, guys. Hopefully this makes sense. And again, in our program and our design, our coaching, everything that we do here, and I'm not just here to plug the program. I'm here to say this is why we put things into our program, because these are the reasons, right? These are reasons. So in our programming, we do a lot of functional movement patterns, but we do it under control. We do it with rest in between because you need to get good at that. And then as we move closer to the HYROX race itself, we put them into those more faster paced situations, right? Really good one to understand. Okay, if you got strength, if you got endurance, if you're starting now to build functional movement patterns on top of that, all right, this last pillar just ties everything and makes it work better, okay? So think of like an electric vehicle, all right? These EV cars, you got your Tesla, right? But you've got no electricity, right? You plug it in, there's no electricity, right? There's nothing powering the car. How useful is that car, right? It's not very useful. So nutrition fuels our body, okay? So the fourth pillar that you have to put energy towards is you have to get your nutrition dialed in. You have to dial it in. Now, what does dial it in mean? It means you have to take it from wherever it is, right? And you have to make sure that your goals and the level that you want to perform HYROX at, that your nutrition matches that effort, right? So if you want to be first place world champion in HYROX, you better have a nutrition profile and you've got to be eating food so spot on, counting all your macros, counting calories, making sure that all your food is the highest quality to match that effort, right? Because you're going to be putting your body under the most stress. You're going to be putting the body, you're going to be asking the most out of it, right? So it's just like, again, a battery powered vehicle. If we want to use boost on, turbo on, sport mode, all the rest of it, you want to have a full battery, right? You got to make sure you got a good big battery in that thing to power it, or else it's going to go dead really fast. It's not then going to perform. Or imagine the power supply just couldn't, again, energize the engine or the car properly, right? Then it's a fueling issue, right? So we got to do that. Now, not everyone wants to come number one, right? Maybe you just want to, like, you and your friend have entered doubles and you just want to have a great time and just do your best, right? But you still got work commitments, you got family commitments, you got all those things, but you're there for a good time to stay fit, which is great. Just make sure your nutrition matches that, which means, hey, I'm going to eat a little bit more protein. I'm going to get a little bit of good quality carbs in. I'm still going to have some chocolate in the evenings. I'm still going to have a drink on the weekend. But during the week, I'm also going to make sure I get some more fruit, some more veg in as well, because this is going to help my recovery. It's going to help my fueling. It's going to help me train, right? Which means I'm going to get more out of my training. I'm going to get better results, and I'm going to have a better overall experience. Plus, I'm going to be working towards one of your key values, which is probably health and fitness, right? So we got to make sure we are tackling nutrition. There is a saying, right? And it hasn't been proven otherwise, is you can't out-train a bad diet. All right. So if you are just like, no effort to nutrition, you think your way of like losing weight is just you've ate some chocolate, so you're going to train extra hard, or, you're not eating enough protein, but you don't know why you're not recovering, or you're not getting in enough quality carbs and protein, and you wonder why you're dying halfway in the workout. It's like, nutrition is so, so important. All right, guys, I'm going to stop there. I'll keep it on the simple version here today. But again, taking these 4 pillars: strength, endurance, functional movement patterns, nutrition. If you start to really put energy towards all those areas, start to look at what you're doing in those areas, start to fill the holes in your bucket, right? Go back to that analogy. I love this analogy. You got to walk before you run before you can, so walk before you can jog before you can run. We understand that when it comes to all of these pillars that we talk about, right? You might have skipped steps, or you might have gone past things too fast, or you haven't adapted properly to it. And now you're wondering why. Why am I not recovering? Why am I getting injured? Why are my results, not improving? Why didn't I improve my HYROX time? Right? There's all these things, right? So again, if you need help with this, like, please comment in the comment section. If this is in YouTube or in our school group, I'm here to reach out to you. If you want to join a community where we talk about this all the time, we share insights, and we have information, we have a section where you can go and learn the movements, learn how to do things. If you want a training program to follow to help you, again, fill all these gaps, right? Get expert guidance, knowledge, and a plan that has been proven. Like, we have all that available as well. It's in the links below. We got the school group community. Again, we got a free, we got a paid one. All right, free, full of value. The paid one, you get coaching from me, direct, tailored, everything. Okay, we have options there. If not, hopefully this video was enough to give you an insight to just do something a little bit better. If that is the case, I've done my job here today, and thank you so much for listening. Again, guys, appreciate all your time. Until the next video, I'll see you there.